can. Okay, can you make the opening remarks?
Yes, good afternoon and good morning. Sorry for this disruption. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Relations, I would like to welcome all of you participating from the missions, Sri Lanka missions. And first of all, I would like to thank the EDB for organizing today's webinar on Marine and Offshore Engineering. We have with us diplomatic representatives from the Sri Lanka missions in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Myanmar, the 3 missions in India, namely New Delhi, Chennai and Mumbai, and Bangladesh, as well as the Sri Lanka embassy in Riyadh and the Consulate General in Jeddah. I have shared, the ministry has shared with the missions the agenda and a PowerPoint presentation which we received from EDB in readiness for today's webinar, and I hope everyone has received it. On the Marine and Offshore Engineering, which has been identified as one of the priority sectors by EDB, just to flag that this is one of the sectors which have been taken up with the others for expansion of promotion of the export basket together with the EDB. We have been doing it for some time, since I think May. And today this webinar is a series of one of the series of webinars, informative webinars, and we have already held webinars, similar webinars on printing sector and electronics and electricals, and on ceramics and porcelain, and boat building also on ICT sector. Now I would like to invite Madam Srivardhana to make the object to commence the webinar by informing the participants on the objectives of the webinar. May I invite Madam?
Yeah, thank you, Shashika. Yeah, I'll briefly tell you, I think we're running out of time. My officers are saying so many presentations to be done. Well, the objective behind this today's program is that we felt it was necessary to create to inform or to give the facts and the status quo of Sri Lanka's capabilities on the marine and offshore engineering sector to our officials over there, seeking their assistance to increase exports from Sri Lanka from the exports of sector services. As you know, exports contribute only to around 15% of the GDP, and of this, the exports of services is even less, much less than the exports of goods. So when we say service sector exports, it comprises of exports of IT BPM sector, which is over $1 billion. Then exports of logistics, which is around $2.5 billion, which comprise of exports of foreign exchange earned from freight services, ship agency services, entrepreneur trade, and also the air and sea cargo. So what we are looking now is to see how the exports from the marine and offshore engineering sector could contribute to increasing our foreign exchange earnings. Towards that, it was felt that, of course, the other speakers will say that Sri Lanka's strategic location, the availability of so many ports in Sri Lanka, and presently the markets that we export to in the Asian countries, we are the location of Sri Lanka to service neighboring countries. In the product sector, in the sector that we are targeting is the oil industry. We are targeting is the oil and gas industry. To that industry, how we can offer our services. So maybe with that, I will now request Dr. Sarath Obesekara to give, who is also the chairman of the advisory forum of the marine and offshore engineering sector of the EDB. You know, there are, we have advisory committees which are established under the EDB Act. Their task is to advise the EDB and on how we could increase our exports or how the various sectors can contribute to the country's exports. So at the time we formed the other advisory committees, we have about 16 advisory committees. We hadn't come up with this advisory committee, so since it takes a long process to gazette and do all that, we have called this advisory forum on marine and offshore engineering. So may I request the chairman of the advisory forum to carry on the rest of the sessions and to brief you on the capabilities and what is expected for the industry. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, madam. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Can you transfer the control of the slides to me, please, PDB?
I can't see that.
Now, we have, okay. I am, let me introduce myself beforehand. I am the, as Mrs. Sirivardhana mentioned, I am the chairman of the advisory forum, which most probably will be change the name to advisory committee in time to come. I am currently the CEO of the second shipyard, which is Workers Colombo shipyard, built in Colombo in Fishery Harbour. And also I have worked in the oil and gas sector for many years, and I am back in Sri Lanka trying to develop this industry. Okay, I'll come to the next slide. Marine and offshore industrial engineering industry is a subject which has been discussed during the past many years. And if I may, if you look at the slide, you will see the marine and offshore engineering industry focuses on, I think some people should mute their mics. Please mute their mics. Riyadh, can you ask them to mute the mics? The marine and offshore engineering industry focuses on the demand of repair, modification, maintenance, conversion of tankers and ships to floating production and storage and offloading platforms, oil field equipment. We can't hear properly. Somebody is telling that they can't hear properly. Let me, I don't know why. Now, can everybody hear? Can anybody raise their hand if they can't hear, please? Everybody can hear. Thank you. Now, why Sri Lanka for marine and offshore engineering sector? Sri Lankan marine and offshore engineering industry can be developed on par with global players in shipbuilding, marine engineering, and offshore construction. Sri Lanka has not started this as yet, but with the upcoming LNG exploration and drilling program in the Mana Basin, Cauvery Basin, and the Eastern Bloc, we expect a boom in the offshore oil and gas industry. Therefore, it is right time and it is timely to start the development so that we are ready to meet the challenge. This would require collective action and support from the industry and stakeholders and the government of Sri Lanka and the missions abroad. Idea of getting you involved in the missions abroad is to for you to do some inquiries in the market and with the stakeholders in those respective countries and convey our message and try to establish B2B meetings or other type of discussions to start getting. Now we need to showcase Sri Lanka as one of the best and reliable marine and offshore engineering services. Next slide, please. PDB. Okay. Target business linkages I am contemplating is ship owners, operators in oil exploration and production, shipping lines, engineering consultancy and project management companies. I will elaborate on engineering consultancy and project management companies in the next slide or two. International oil companies, national oil companies in those respective countries who are involved in the oil and gas industry. Field services companies, support services contractors who have got branches in the countries where you are residing. They might be able to contract through you, through EDB, and try to establish partners in our country to establish their branches, for example. Companies involved in oil and gas rig building and conversion. Now, this is a industry coming up with oil tankers and other large vessels coming out of the usage because of the corona. May be that certain oil companies hope to convert them into oil rig and drilling operations. Then government, state agencies of the targeted countries, foreign missions of other locally based foreign companies, drilling and exploration contractors. Now in India, there are a few state-owned and also the companies like Reliance, and in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, even Indonesia, I think you have gas, and in Malaysia, all these companies can be approached. Maybe you'll have to propose some sort of a B2B meeting in the businesses and in the embassies and invite them. Then the shipbuilding companies, ship brokering companies, and ship chartering companies. Next, please. Can you change to the next slide, please? Proposed scope of business. Now there is one please hold on a second. There is a industry which we called layup facilities, that is parking, I would say, very simple layman's word, parking of oil rigs, tankers, semi-submersible platforms. You might see them in the photographs, to be parked or brought to Colombo, to Hambantota or Trincomalee. As you know, Trincomalee is one of the biggest natural harbors with quite a high deep depth. We are already operating on that. My next speaker will give you some more background on this. So as I explained, ships for various reasons, especially due to financial concerns, are removed from service and moored or berthed at a safe anchorage for a period of, we call it in technical terms, laying up. You have hot layup, cold layup. Hot layup means we will do our repairs. Then they are parked. Cold layup, sometimes they keep it just parked and change the crew and keep routine maintenance to be deployed at the very first opportunity to do some operations. Then the key consideration for layup, currently I think it's happening in Indonesia, Malaysia, and even in Middle East and Singapore. Estimated time in layup condition, sometimes it goes up to 2-3 months, 1 year. Operation cost saving and other and time and cost savings, and they will be also considering next destination for recommissioning and deploying for the operations. Age of vessels. Next paragraph. Can you go to the next, please?
Okay.
Why it is a unique position to take up this emerging timely business? We are talking about developing this business, why it is unique position. India and Sri Lanka is in a unique position. Sri Lanka possesses the following key criteria to win the layup business. Short-term and medium-term layups. It's a sheltered open seas, Trincomalee, inner anchorage, and Hambantota. Quite a large area where these rigs can be berthed or anchors. Minimum tidal currents, especially in Trincomalee. Good holding grounds for anchors, easy access to airport or crew change. This is an area where you may have to look at. Crew change. Crew change is a thing which has come up recently, which needs careful studying because of the corona epidemic. And Sri Lanka, I think, has quite a expanded trial and checked or tested corona, crew changes and looking after the crew who are coming out of the ships, and easy access to the other areas. We are going back. Manoja, we are going back. Can you put me back? Not that one. That one. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. I've explained about the target business linkages which embassies and high commissions can approach, which I've explained to earlier, and why it is a unique position. I have explained. Go to the next place. And we can also provide critical engineering, vessel husbandry, crew management, bunkering, repair, servicing, and with the Trincomalee tanks most probably be taken over by the government and developing it for storage for sludge and oil. It might be a good idea to use that opportunity. And in the past, we have been able to give best security and safety coverage for the vessels. Next please. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Other area. Now, I was briefly explaining. I think our two next speakers will go elaborate on that subject about layout, which is an existing business which we need to develop to grow. There's nothing special to be done except regularizing certain rules and regulations and simplifying them to entice these rig owners and operators to come to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka being an attractive place to come, I'm sure a lot of people will try to bring their vessels here. Now, I think we are going too fast. I think it's not the capacity building, something before that. Existing development in the offshore sector, one before that. The previous slide. Other areas for development is establishment of bonded warehouse in Colombo, Trinco, and Hambantota. I think Trincomalee being one of the harbors en route to the Far East from Dubai or Middle East, I would say, there's ample space of land and also within the harbor to establish bonded warehouse. When you say bonded warehouse, suppliers and equipment, manufacturers can bring their vessel equipment which are used in the oil and gas industry, like specialized pipes, paints, and other things. They can store them in bonded warehouse without paying any taxes, like in many other countries they do. Like in Sri Lanka, sometimes they store sugar like that. Then you store, then you grow them for your applications whenever necessary. That will cut cost and just-in-time delivery. Then we have investment quarantine centers, class hotels converted in Sri Lanka. I have not heard in any other countries any government has used that method to give this facility to people for quarantine purposes. Then we are also developing quite a few projects of wind farms in Mana side, where there are high wind forces. That is also in the offshore sector we are developing. And also, as you may know, if you look at the details in the website, we are developing our LNG business in Mana district, and we are going too fast. EDB, can you go back, please? Now, as you see, Koveri Basin, Mana Basin, and Lanka Basin in the east, these are the areas which are earmarked for LNG exploration and drilling, which has been done. And the government is about to award the contracts to some consortium to do the LNG development. Now, with the existing layup facilities, if we concentrate on the LNG development and also planned by the government, there was a webinar recently on LNG for Sri Lanka, future development of LNG. And we are planning also they are planning to install a FSRU, that is floating storage and refrigeration and offloading unit in the sea next to western coast for us to use the LNG for power plants and even CNG, that is compressed natural gas for vehicle for fuel as fuel for vehicles. Next please. Now these are the areas where now we are developing. So can we move to the next slide, please? I can't move. Now I'm handing over with this conclusion. I'm handing over the details to one of our speakers, Mr. Ricky Banu.
Thank you, Dr. Sarath.
Please, Ricky, can you take over, please?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sarath, for the introduction of the industry and build up to this opportunity. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone in the webinar. As you saw in my profile, I represent Haley's, a company over 142 years and presence in our country, in Sri Lanka, an 100% local entity. We got involved in the oil and gas business ever since the oil and gas exploration activity started in 2008, with Kane Energy coming to the country to do exploration to find our own oil and gas in our waters. Whilst the industry went through a bit of a downturn, we turned to find a new business, which was this laying up of vessels, or mainly in the oil and gas arena. What you see on the screen right now is our own activities that was done in Sri Lankan waters. What you see on your right hand side on the screen, which is a large vessel, it's about 300 meters in length, towed by 4 tugs. This is called a FPSO. So when a company comes to the country, a drilling company explores for oil and gas, when they discover the oil and gas, the extraction from the earth below the ocean takes place for a number of years, 10 years, 15 years, until the reservoir is completely taken out. So these vessels goes for contracts for 10-15 years. And once they finish those contracts, the next contract is in about 2-3 years time. So until then, they need a place to keep their valuable millions of dollars worth asset in a safe location. So what you see in this slide is all those typical assets that are used in this industry to do the extraction of oil and gas. The one on your left-hand side screen, the small stamp size picture, the second one, you will see a large heavy lift carrier carrying another rig on top of it. So you need a safe place. The middle part of the ship sinks right into the waters where we pull out the rig. This is about 100, and with the total air draft will come to about 130 meters in height. So you can imagine the massive complex logistic capacity and capability that the country needs to handle this. So all these activities were done in Sri Lanka. These are performed by us in our waters in Trincomalee. So we have that ideal water depth, and the waters are so calm. You're like standing on earth, on flat surface, the Trincomalee waters. The other two assets that you see is at Hambantota Port. And another buoy right at the right below left-hand side of the screen is a 600-ton buoy which is fitted to the FPSO to facilitate the production of oil and gas. So all these assets we grabbed from the other markets. These assets were going for parking, as Dr. Sarath said, in other layup countries, especially in the Far East, where Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore is concerned. They are the market leaders in giving places to stay for these assets. For an example, I can mention to you the FPSO, which I spoke to you a little while ago, the right-hand side picture, and the drill ship here, generated just $4 million of foreign exchange direct to our country in 1 year. $4 million, just 2 assets. So just imagine if we can tap this market, how much of foreign exchange directly we can come. They pay by the day. They pay for parking, they pay for our laborers, they pay for our companies who do the repairs. on those vessels, and even the crew changes. We have very good companies, internationally reputed, credible, like Colombo Dockyard, Walkers. They perform these tasks to international standards. And that is one thing that we can market very well. And that is the main reason for them to select our countries. The location, the safe waters, and the backup teams and companies that is there to entrust their assets to us to look after. So like we promote tourism, you know, we go out at embassies and consulates of our country in representing us all over the world. You confidently promote Sri Lanka, you know, come to Sri Lanka, it's a safe country, come and visit our country, you know, see all the natural heritage and the things that we have to offer the world. Same way you can do this for our industry. You can promote our Hambantota and Trincomalee ports. Ask those businesses, the companies who own these rigs and marine assets to come to Sri Lanka and park their vessels in our country, in our waters, than any other country. If I can go to the next slide, please. Let me control that. Yeah, so if you see this location, this layup map shows where the, sorry, one slide earlier, please. Yeah, so this map, the layup locations, as you see, Far East, where Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia is concerned, these are the hotspots. As Dr. Sarath mentioned earlier in his presentation, below Sri Lanka, just the southern tip, every single day there is at least between 250 to 300 vessels passing us from east to west, west to east. So all these vessels has oil and gas assets as well, being towed to these locations. In India, India is one of our biggest markets. In India, there's a lot of drilling going on. India produces now their own gas, oil and gas. They are self-sufficient for about 25%. Other 75% is imported from the Middle East and other countries. So for them to do the oil and gas drilling, they need these assets. So these assets pass Sri Lanka and go to these locations, the east and the west of India. So at the moment, we have about 65 rigs working in India. So these rigs can come to Sri Lanka, like what we did. That is one of our main markets. They can do the offloading, crew change, do all the necessary repairs, engage like Dockyard, and do all what they need and send those rigs to their locations. Same way in the Far East, they pass us and go to these locations. Another market is the Middle East. These big asset owners at present select all these red circle locations to park their vessels. So if with your help from the consulates and embassies, if we can identify these companies and approach them and tell them, instead of going to these red spot locations, select Sri Lanka, which is right in the Indian Ocean, accessible to all the markets, we will be much better. It will bring you a lot of economic and operational efficiencies. If I go to the next slide. So the main two locations that we are promoting for oil and gas and marine asset layups or parking, as Dr. said, is Trincomalee and Hambantota. Both of these ports are equipped with two wonderful airports, international standard airports. So one main thing is the people who work there, the foreign expats who work on the ships, they need to go back to their countries. So we use, sorry, the slides have changed. Excuse me, can you go back to the slide, please? One more back, please. Yeah, so these two, Hambantota and Trincomalee, as you know, is connected with airports and very safe ports and locations. So we can promote these two ports without any doubt to all these international companies because we are very, very well equipped. And now we have a track record. We have handled more than 20 rigs with other companies in Sri Lanka. So we have the track record, the capability, and good companies to back this up. These are some aerial views of the two ports. So as Dr. mentioned earlier, you have the various types of layups. some assets needs to be near the port in the quayside where they can tie their vessel up. So it's called a quayside layup. Some just need to stay in the anchorage. So both of these ports have both of those capabilities to offer. That is Hambantota Port and Trincomalee Port, what you see. Finally, that is my presentation. Let me invite my good friend from Colombo Dockyard, Darshana, to take it over from here, please. Thanks.
Darshana, may I interrupt a little bit?
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
Manoja.
Okay, Doctor.
Now, I have missed one or two slides to invite international companies to establish their branch offices in these new office complexes coming in Port City. Those two slides, you can put it after Darshana's presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, can I think that first? This one.
Good day to all. I'm actually I'm head of marketing at Colombo Dockyard. Maybe most of you know, but few may be aware of what Colombo Dockyard is. We are doing shipbuilding, ship repairs, offshore and heavy engineering. And let's go on to the next slide. Manoja, next slide. Yeah. If I just, my presentation covers the strengths and opportunities for the industry, as well as what Colombo Dockyard can offer to the industry as a value addition. So as Dr. Besekara was highlighting the main locations for layups, we need to get this sort of finalized and approved so we can do the marketing and get the vessels into these locations fast, not keep on waiting until the situation or the passes. So identify locations, then the required skills we have in Sri Lanka, but we need to upgrade some. As Mr. Ricky came in and said that we have the logistics service providers already established and we need them to service this industry. And also for the offshore oil industry, we need the certifications to be upgraded. Going on to the next slide. As I said, the ship repairs, shipbuilding, offshore and heavy engineering. Now, many of our, I want to make a statement here. Most of the consuls and the embassies, when we are marketing and actually going to promote the Colombo Dockyard as a shipbuilding entity or ship repair facility for offshore heavy engineering, Sri Lanka is looked upon as only a tourist destination by the global market. We have a huge barrier. We need to break through to convince them that we are engineering tech-savvy nation where we can do shipbuilding as well as provide offshore and heavy engineering services. So this, we need the foreign ministry network to support us actually to have the background laid when we go in, that they know what Colombo and Sri Lanka can do. So that is one key factor the foreign ministry and the foreign ministry network can support us, because we definitely can as a industry share what information needed for the foreign ministry to have and create the background. So this is one main idea. And going on to what you call the next slide.
Port City can
These are some of the projects which we have handled particular to the offshore industry. Like the Aban 2 rig, which we handled for mat repairs. This is in Colombo with our berth, one of the Colombo Dockyard North Pier, and also the offshore mobile offshore drill unit Sagar Vijay, which was handled in the yard for major layup work. So the shipyard has the capacity to do high-tech and complicated repairs. So we need the market as well as our own foreign stations to understand that we can do it. So next slide, please. Okay, this is actually one of the recent projects which we have done, as what Ricky was saying about FPSO. This FPSO Virubai 1, which was accommodated at the HIBG berth for layup, we had been approached by the owners as well as Haley's, Ricky's team, and we managed to give a good proposal and carry out this moon extensive steel modification on this layup. So these are some of the value additions that these rigs and vessels require when they are laid up. They will need the technical support not only for this sort of repairs, but also for reactivation and other maintenance work. So definitely Colombo Dockyard and maybe also MTD Walkers and the other engineering units are definitely capable of providing that service. Next slide. And we have also recently launched a rapid response Afloat repair service, which covers all these ports: Colombo, Trinco, Galle, and Hambantota. So this unit is geared to handle required maintenance and repair requirements, can be tailored to meet the offshore industry needs. So, and also this activation processors and ability to provide total solution for layup work. So this is what Colombo Dockyard and I think together with other engineering solutions provide to the market, while we need the support from the foreign ministry and our team to work in line with one direction in promoting Sri Lanka as a destination for layup plus repairs, which will make, I think, life easier and easier for us to actually break the barrier and move into these high-end markets where the money is. Otherwise, we are actually groping in the dark and only taking the bits and pieces. So that is basically my presentation. Thank you.
Manoja?
Yes, Doctor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. My name is Srinath Konando. I think that, can I see my...
Can you increase your volume?
Reduce the volume?
Please speak louder.
Okay, right. So I have had the benefit of working with oil and gas industry in Oman, Yemen, Bahrain, Qatar, and UAE. And I have dealt with major players in the oil and gas sector and also with the governments. Now, I can take one example and relevant to the commercial counselors. Now, for example, a company like Petronas in Malaysia. It's a huge company, it's a state-owned company. They have investments all over the world. And this company operates as a drilling contractor as well as an exploration company. So they have their own fleets of drill ships, jackup rigs, and all sorts of marine assets. Now, they have a system called vendor registration. This is extremely important because we have 4 major players in Sri Lanka: Colombo Dockyard, Walker Shipping, Haley's, and McLaren's. Now, all these 4 companies can do rig repairs or the ship repairs, all these things. But when it comes new build, only Colombo Dockyard and Walker's can do the new build. So when you deal with the head of procurement at the Petronas, you can introduce all 4 companies, and there is a document called vendor registration. This is extremely important because if there is a request for quotation, they will send this inquiry, this request for quotation to the approved companies, those companies who have been pre-qualified and approved and got registered in their register as a vendor to the Petronas. So example, I'm taking Petronas as an example. So in the case of Petronas, they have their registration documents. And in the case of ADNOC in the UAE, Aramco in Saudi Arabia, these are major players. They have their own procurement system. So to penetrate the market, we would need your help. Whether you can meet the head of procurement of the Petronas and introduce these 4 major players in Sri Lanka and try to get information on the upcoming projects, and also whether you can get their names registered in their vendor register. Then only they will send the inquiry, the request for quotation to these companies. Whether they can quote or not is a different matter. But the first, the penetration of the market is to get their names noticed by these companies, the major players. There is a company in Sri Lanka called the Colombo Dockyard, Walker's Shipbuilding, and Haley's and McLaren's. Then they know, okay, these are good companies. We can also check their prices also. This is market penetration, the initial stage. So we would require your assistance to go and meet the head of procurement of the big players. In Malaysia, of course, Petronas is a big player. In UAE, it's called, I think, ADNOC, Aramco in Saudi Arabia, and like in India, it's ONGC. There are so many big players, Bharat Petroleum, so many companies in India. They are state-owned companies. So the first task is to go and meet them and get their information about the upcoming projects. And also you can meet the planning, head of planning also. That person also can give you some details about their upcoming plans. And also these companies also want to know the key players, the key personnel of these organizations. So when you go there, you will meet and will exchange business cards. And these contact details can be shared with EDB. EDB in return will share it with the forum members. So I have touched the basics, the very basics of penetrating the market. This is also part of economic diplomacy. When there is a bid that has been submitted to the, for example, Petronas, and Colombo Dockyard or workers feel that their bid is very competitive, then it comes to government to lobbying. Hello. The other one is you can also share information with the companies, and they can also update their commercial information. We call it business deals. So next, Manoja, can I share some slides from my computer? Can you give me access? Yeah, as regard the location, I must tell you.
The slide.
As regard the location, I must tell you, although Sri Lanka's location is being talked about by everybody, but nothing has been done to promote the location. Why it is important? Now, for example, the best deep water natural gas is the port of Sydney, but it is far from the shipping route. It has no value. It has no value. It's the best in the world. But port of Trincomalee, shipping routes, is congested routes. If I may share something with you now.
Insight about the ports. Email.
Just have a look at this screen. Doctor, can you see the screen?
Sorry?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Now see the traffic. You can see red color shows the tankers and the crude carriers, LNG carriers. Now see how close Sri Lanka is to all these shipping routes. Now if you go to the next slide, you see the port of Sydney. This is the best natural harbor in the world, but it has no strategic value. It has no significant value. There is no shipping routes near Sydney. Sri Lanka is best positioned because of this particular reason. So we have got to market this market this particular concept very vigorously with the oil and gas companies and the big players in the world. Now, see this one. This is Port of Sharjah. As you can see, the rigs are parked here. They have to pay at least US dollars 500 per day for parking only. And these rigs have been sent to this particular port because Sharjah is a marine hub. So many companies can provide services for this sector. So they have come here for the rig repairs or refurbishment, because when the rig is stationed in offshore, it is subject to corrosion. So every once in 6 months, these rigs must come to the port for some repairs and some refurbishment. It's a huge industry and a very costly industry. And as you can see, because of the corrosion, they have to replace a lot of materials. So when you have a hub concept in Sri Lanka, because of the 4 companies who can provide all sorts of services, they are technically competent. So we can promote Sri Lanka as a hub. We need to get at least good orders from these areas, then we can develop the market very well. Because of the 4 capable companies in Sri Lanka, we have to exploit the market. The first thing I said is to penetrate first, go and meet them if you can, great help for our industry, and promote these 4 companies and their capabilities. I'm sure that EDB can provide you some basic information on the capabilities of these 4 companies. I think with that, I can continue the presentation. I want to thank EDB and the Foreign Minister for having brought information to us. We truly appreciate that we have to get a message to the commercial council. We really look forward to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath. Can you take up the presentation, please? EDB, take out the presentation. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen from Conscience Board and can everybody hear me?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Okay. This session is the questions and answers. Please pose any questions what you would like to present to us so that we can either give the answers right now to guide you in the right direction as been suggested by all 3 keynote speakers, actually all 4. If there are any questions, we should be able to answer. The slides is any questions, please. Now, as Srinath mentioned, I guess given a large coverage about these countries where the missions can do some work for us. We will continuously communicate with you, and I have been to one of the meetings in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where your current Secretary of Foreign Affairs has showed a keen interest in this thing called economic diplomacy, I would say. Srinath's words, I think. So please ask any questions now, or you can send us the questions later. Floor is for you, please. Especially the, yes, ma'am. So, High Commission in somewhere
in Singapore. Can I just say a few words?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for a very interesting session. Thank you to the presenters. It was really interesting to hear about the opportunities that exist. From our end, what we have done is reached out to certain companies that have already done business with Sri Lanka, particularly on shipbuilding. And what we've learned from them is a little bit of frustration that that they don't seem to be getting the kind of supply that they require. So my question really revolves around the capacity to provide the kind of services that are required. I don't know whether I'm clear. In addition to which, I would also like to add on to something that was said by one of the presenters on the need to network a bit better with the missions overseas. So if we could have the contact persons of the 4 companies that were mentioned there, Colombo Dockyard, Walkers, Haley's, etc. If the 4 companies can actually give us direct contact details, maybe for the High Commissioner with the chairperson who's handling this, and then procurement heads with the seconds in command, so we can actually link up. Because what we found is when we have an issue, whether it's a crew change or whether it's a company that says, you know, we want to do X, it really is quite difficult for us to reach out and get the correct information. So we reach out through our channels, which is the Foreign Ministry. But by the time the information filters down and then we get the connection, it's there is a time lag. But to facilitate that and to kind of lower the time lags, I think it would be important for the companies themselves to connect directly with the High Commissions, while keeping the Economic Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry informed of the connections that are taking place. We see a lot of opportunity from the Singapore side. There are several companies that are interested in doing work. But what we found at this point is that they have a little bit of anxiety with regard to capacity. So if more information can be made available about the companies and what they can provide, we can actually promote from this end as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can EDB give a simple answer about the contact point? Then I'll proceed further. Thank you.
If I may add something, Dr.
Yes. Yeah.
I think EDB has to prepare a 4 or 5 page document.
That's right.
The capabilities of these 4 or 5 companies.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we will do that. I think it would be best if EDB coordinates this, and we will send you a kind of a dossier or a pitch book of the supply capabilities initially of the 4 companies. And whatever, Your Excellency, the difficulty in the Singapore side being not able to make contact with the Sri Lankan side, EDB as the trade promotion body facilitating exporters, we would facilitate that task. We will get all the information, coordinate with the Sri Lankan companies, and provide you. We will discuss with the advisory forum.
I mean, I think what I...
Please go ahead.
Yeah. For example, my query about, for example, even if it's a crew change or now, with the coronavirus issue, we have certain limitations. Okay. But even in that situation, there are certain companies who want to do, for example, crew changes in a particular in Sri Lanka. Facilitate the companies who are already doing business with Sri Lanka. Who are already doing business with Sri Lanka. So these are people who, who bought floating structures, who bought ships from Sri Lanka, who have huge business here, but they find it difficult when it comes to being facilitated on small things like, crew changes. Because it builds, I think, it's not only finding the business, but also facilitating those companies that are already doing business with Sri Lanka, so that they keep interested in what Sri Lanka can give in the future as well.
Okay, so initially we will give you dossier, a capacity kind of information of the 4 companies, detailed information as you requested, the chairman, the CEO, the procurement head. We will, together with the advisory forum, we will prepare and have the 4 profiles sent to within a short time. To begin with, these 4 will be sent to you. And thereafter, the company-to-company discussions can take place.
Okay. All right. We will try to facilitate some kind of contacts between the companies and potential buyers and investors from this end.
Yeah. Thank you.
If I may add to His Excellency's comments, we have one rig which is called the drill ship from Aban Abraham, Singapore. So they came here in 2018 and they want to stay another full year. So this is Aban Offshore Singapore, and the first business from Singapore for us, which I'm very proud proud to say that we've been managing them very well for the last 1.5 years, and they will be staying another 1 year. So the first business from Singapore is from Aban Abraham.
Okay.
Singapore offshoring company. So with regards to crew changes and all that, with Mattala Airport getting fully activated, and there is a proposal to the government given to operate charter flights, and its location, I think, close to the airport, connecting both the airports, Colombo International Airport and the Mattala Airport through a highway, really facilitates to do a proper crew change with this COVID-19 situation. It's like a corridor of safeness to passage, to get a passage to crews. Thank you.
Okay. Madam, thank you for the query, and I think Ms. Zirwardhan has given a clear insight of the plans. You mentioned about these our lacuna in providing services, equipment, maybe from Sri Lankan end, and 2 slides I missed in my presentation due to a certain confusion. Singapore, Dubai, and all the Middle Eastern countries, and even Malaysia and Singapore, Indonesia has branches of big companies, consultancy companies, supply companies in those countries. So idea is to establish their branch offices in Colombo. And I have sent another news item which came up yesterday in the Financial Times about the facilities and the tax concessions to be given to companies who will try to establish, I would say, a small liaison office like in Singapore, in Dubai. I mean, I'm talking about companies where I myself have worked, which is Halliburton, Bechtel, Brown and Root, Foster Wheeler, Fluor, Arca Kaman Engineering. I just listed where I have already worked in the oil and gas sector. I remember in Norway in 80s when they started the very first oil exploration project, I was involved in those projects, and they didn't have any Sri Lanka foreign company, UK, European company in that country. All the work was done by expats. And later they developed their industry, and more companies started opening offices. So this is one of the things we are proposing. In addition to that, in order to follow that Japanese system of just in time thing, I am also proposing, I mentioned that earlier, to establish bonded warehouse which will hold stocks of all the spares and the materials required for this industry. That is what we are planning to do. I think this is the start of that program. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I request EDB to follow through and give us details of the companies, you know, perhaps giving some ideas as to what kind of companies should be attracted to Sri Lanka, the main companies that need to open up their offices, or you think should open up offices in Sri Lanka. I can then go meet them and see the possibility of that happening.
Okay, yes, we will do that. In consultation, we will have to get it from the industry themselves. Normally, we will consult them, get the names from them, put it together and forward it to you through the Foreign Ministry. I would also like to add to what Dr. Obesekara said, with my experience in handling the apparel export sector at the EDB many years ago, how the liaison officers you mentioned, yes, that is how the apparel industry in Sri Lanka got developed. We had so-called foreign liaison officers, like the branch office of Marks and Spencer, branch office of Next Manufacturing. Those people thought it fit to come and have their branch office in Sri Lanka. Whereas still a majority of these apparel buying branch offices are located in Hong Kong and Singapore and India, but even the apparel industry has been saying, try to get them to house their branch office in Sri Lanka. Then the chances of getting the orders to Sri Lanka will be greater. So I think it's the same thing. I was happy to learn that the same thing is going to work in this sector as well. And
so maybe if you send us the details, we will start reaching out immediately.
Okay, who is the branch officers we want to attract?
To add a little bit more, there are a lot of real estate development in Colombo suburbs, especially in the port city, and there's a hype in getting investors to come to Sri Lanka and start development. We will also send you all that information, and the list of companies I have given in my original presentation, I can get it to EDB so that they can send it to all the high commissions. Which we
Appreciate
think.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Good afternoon. I'm from Mumbai Consulate. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. So just to add a few points, I have been in touch with the chairperson of Shipping Corporation of India, that is the largest state-owned shipping corporation. This is regarding an issue, to sort the issue with the Colombo Dockyard. The Colombo Dockyard is already in business with the Shipping Corporation of India, but there is over 10 million outstanding dues for the Colombo Dockyard, last 2 years for the work done by the Colombo Dockyard. And I'm glad that after successful discussion, so this Ms. Joshi, chairperson, she agreed to settle these payments to Colombo Dockyard on installment basis. And Mr. Benny Fernando from Colombo Dockyard, now he's also in touch with me. And now this matter is sorted. Now they are settling these payments for the Colombo Dockyard. But during my discussion, Ms. Joshi pointed out few things. One is there are some delays. So they find working with the Sri Lanka side, and also the capacity. So these are the few things I want to highlight. And also, despite this India-made, the barriers, the India-made policy, I see there are vast opportunities in dry dock repairs in Indian side demand.
Dry dock repairs.
Dry dock repairs. This is a vast demand in this area. In the Sri Lankan side, you can see the opportunities in this side. And there's another thing I would like to know whether there is any agreement on shipping and trade between bilateral agreement with India and Sri Lanka at the moment. Because the major players like Indonesia, Norway, and the Netherlands, they are having a lot of businesses with India. They have this agreement. This is another point. And also your presentation on capacity building of offshore service industry. So I would like to know more details on this, because you may know one of the well-respected Indian officer, Dr. Malini Shankar, who is the DG shipping in India. Now she's retired and she has been appointed as the Vice Chancellor of Maritime University in Chennai. So I had a chat with her yesterday. So that, it's a good chance for Sri Lanka. If you can just explain me on this slide, capacity building in offshore service industry. So then we can link up with since she is going to be the Vice Chancellor of this university for next 5 years. So how we can link up this, this area.
Thank you. Actually,
Thank you.
Under this forum, subcommittee, I would say, on the offshore marine and sector, halfway through we identified the lacuna of expertise in Sri Lanka or mobilizing them into this industry. And I am also working with the Stavanger University of Stavanger, one of the professors, actually, incidentally, is a Sri Lankan professor, educated. I am working with them on this capacity building. I am also very keen to join up with this Indian University, Marine University, or whatever organization you have, to help us to develop these curricula to teach our Sri Lankan experts and also train them on the right track in the light of experts returning from Middle East. This is a good opportunity. I'll get the details through EDB to you and we will work on that. Thank you, ma'am.
As Sashi said, it's very helpful if you can give us the contact details of these major 3 companies. So we have contacts with the Colombo Dockyard, but we don't have the contacts with the other 3 companies.
We will organize that.
Yeah.
I think EDB will organize that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I can't show you the new relaxed in the port city area where you should definitely ponder into. Port city is going to be the heart of development in Sri Lanka, actually. I am very keen to develop nautical tourism and we call it develop the blue economy. I think there are so many aspects. I have got a small write-up on the subject. I'll send it to you through EDB and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now today, for example, within the next 2 weeks, they are inviting various outside companies who have experience in marine operations, which is also related to offshore marine sector, to come and invest in Gold Harbor. And also you might be also knowing that there is a small issue here politically with the ECT, with India and Japan joining up and working together. There's a danger in losing this chance, because our offshore industry, FSRU, floating storage unit for LNG, is going to be done by the Indian and Japanese joint venture, and now Koreans are trying to come in. So we will send you that information so that those companies can contact us directly. And I can give you most of the information through EDB to you on those projects. Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Doctor, I'm Shashika from the Foreign Ministry. We have received some questions from Sri Lanka and the same Thailand. I'm not sure whether one of the colleagues is there. I think you have already mentioned some, I think, in the responses. I have shared it with EDB. If you can, I mean, I can share it with you later if you, because it's more specific. It has a lot to do with how to acquire land for shipbuilding yards and what are the incentives offered for investors, this kind of questions. So
I could
maybe I
please send it directly to me.
Yes, I will share it with you, because I think they need
EDB, so that they are also in the picture. I am quite conversant with the subject about the land and the waterfronts available for future development.
Yes, so I think because they are planning to meet with the association soon, so I will share this with you. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will also get the inputs from the BOI.
Yeah, BOI also has this land bank.
Jeevani and Nanika here. Jeevani, for Singapore projects, basically the government procurements, they have a special website which is called JBs. I will share the details. All the government Singapore Ports Authority projects are forward to that, uploaded to that site. So anyone can access and see.
That is on the construction. That is on the...
No, the shipping,
even
shipbuilding,
even the
services.
Services,
Yeah.
Service. Okay.
We'll let you know the
yes, right.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? Now,
I have
can I just
shared
say something?
everyone.
Can I please just say something? The companies who are doing marine and offshore engineering services, I mean, I think we can also start kind of, if you have little videos and things like that on the stuff that you've done, you know,
Yes.
short videos which you can share with us, because we can then send these things out. People, you know, before we go meet them, it's important to kind of give them information. We can even provide some kind of platform for these through Sri Lanka business associations who are here as well. So if you all
Yes.
have any infographics, videos, commercials that we can use, then I think we will be happy to do that. So just please send those things across as well. You can tie up with the Councillor Commercial of the High Commission and provide the details to her, and then we'll see how we can give the details out to the offshore marine and shipping industry here.
Surely, thank you so much.
Yes,
I've shared
I also have the same view.
and our
Share
LinkedIn
these
profiles as well.
details.
Thanks.
It's very helpful for us to also take this forward.
Yeah, we will initially collect from the companies. The companies themselves are having their own videos. But otherwise, in the short term, we'll try to see how this presentation material itself can be converted to a short video and sent as a immediate solution.
Thank you. We'll do that. Dockyard and Haley's, you have already got some videos on this area, and I think initially, as we say, we can send whatever direct connections to them so that can be approached.
Dr. Sarath, I just shared 2 flyers that we circulate on LinkedIn, and we have actually LinkedIn page hosting all the pictures, project highlights, videos. So if you visit, I invite all at the forum to visit our LinkedIn page. You can see the recent projects that we have done and the promotional material. We usually tag EDB as well on our page to prove to the world that Sri Lanka is doing this business and the prestigious companies that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. EDB, can you form some sort of a website or some tool?
Google Drive, something. Google Drive, a Google Drive to share this information. Yeah.
Put the information it is in, and then they can.
Okay, so we will get our IT division to set up a Google Drive for this sector, to upload everything in a Google Drive and share the password with all of you.
Okay, I have a small query to Indian High Commissioner for the representative. Now there are there are many tenders coming up under the government, new government, trying to develop this oil and gas offshore industry. I'm very actively involved in this because I'm preparing another paper. Our own company, we are trying to formulate a subsidiary which is only involved in the oil, only in the marine shipbuilding. I'm trying to expand into offshore oil and gas. I think Dockyard also has some plans, and also Ricky being the executor, they would like some other companies to help them. Now, these tenders, for example, there's a pipeline tender, underwater pipeline tender. We don't have any expertise in Sri Lanka. We were trying to contact some Indian parties like Indian Engineers India Limited to give us some support in finding some experts in this. So in such a web forum or whatever we can have, we can pose the question so that you can actively talk to all the Indian companies. And you mentioned about shipping corporation in India, but please make sure you contact companies like ESA, Reliance, and also ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Commission, who are having most of the oil rigs in Bombay High as well as in the eastern coast. And I think Ricky has brought one of the rigs from Reliance. I think Dhirubhai is from Reliance, isn't it, Ricky? So this
it was working for Reliance.
Can be brought in. As you correctly said, we have to develop the logistics, the quick access to equipment, material, like in Singapore. We know how they work. So this is our idea in time to come. Thank you. Any other questions, please? EDB, can we then conclude this, and we will have a follow-up discussion in about after the election, maybe somewhere in October, so that we can see what progress we have made in this.
Yes.
One more request. Just now you mentioned about the Indian market. Please send the specific details you send at least to email. So then, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, but before that, the information requested, I think we'll during the course of next week, I don't know how many days we would have to work, but we'll try to send within a week the information that was requested by various missions. So maybe then conclude the session. We will also try to upload all the information in this Google Drive, the present information. Let me formally conclude the session by thanking firstly the Ministry of Foreign Relations in Sri Lanka for assisting us, joining to have this session, and our, of course, the industrialists, the resource persons for the valuable presentations made, and the Sri Lankan embassies, the heads of missions and the officials